Welcome to BCB Live. We're the safest station in the nation. You have Sir Rick here, and hey, want to remind you real quick, I know this is the safest station in the nation. We're going to talk safety here in just a little bit, but first I want to remind each and every one of you, if you haven't voted, don't forget to go out and let your voice be heard. Get that vote, make it happen. Let me tell you, if you're in that Texas market right now, and I know we have a lot of you in here, you can't find a better day to vote, because when it's starting to rain, the lines are nowhere, man. They're nowhere to be found. Go out, get in line, be heard, cast that vote. It's so important to get to be part of that, and to it's a privilege that so many people across this world do not have. Man, we see we're going to dive in today. A little bit later, we're going to go into what's happening in this industry right now. Man, we had a great conversation today talking to some customers, going over this market that we're in right now. We continue to see freight really dropping. And we've seen it over this last 14 days that freight really dropped down significant. I'm talking 6.5–7% drop in tonnage and freight movement across this country. We've seen the fuel continue to stay where it is. We've seen the truck pricing, staying or going down as well. That used truck, right? So a lot of challenges are gonna finish out this into this year. One of the conversations that we're really gonna jump into is that warehouse inventory going on right now. Warehouse inventory continues to stay high. And, one of the things that we're going to continue to talk about this week, and especially into next week, is that what happens when they begin to release that inventory. They're going to have to release it, right? And once they release that inventory, I think, and my belief is that we as a trucking industry right now, we're going to see that freight, feel that freight coming out, and we're going to think the economy's going back. And my thing is this, listen, we do know that there's not a lot of replacement inventory coming in for these warehouses. And when I say that, that means the inventory that they currently have, let me tell you something, that's that inventory that's been in there for a little while. That's that same inventory that they spent the record freight shipment to get it to their place. The containers going at $25,000, $30,000 a container. All of that just really it went out of control. And that product's sitting in that warehouse right now. They're eventually going to have to start releasing that in record volume to make room. And when they do that, we as a trucking company, we're going to feel like, freight is moving up. It's not that bad. First quarter, that's my thing right now. I don't hear a lot of people talking about that February, March of next year. Critical moment for me is what I see in that. Hey, listen, we're going to go to a break. And we're going to come back. We have an interview today, and we have a panel full of some amazing women today. Can't wait to get involved with it. We're going to tell you their names. We're going to come back in about 60 seconds with more BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. and welcome back to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. I promise you some phenomenal panelists, and let me tell you, we have them right here. What we're going to do here, for those of you that don't know them, we're going to let them introduce themselves. And ladies, I'm going to ask you to kind of keep it brief because we got some things to talk about. Ellen, let's start with you first.
Sure. Ellen Goya, President and CEO of the Women in Trucking Association, which is a trade professional organization of about 7,000 people in 10 countries. 15% of our members are men, and we're all here for the mission to increase the percentage of women employed in the trucking industry.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Hey, Lindsay, it's your turn. Talk to us.
Hey, I am Lindsay Trent, the president and co-founder of a new association called the Next Generation in Trucking Association, and we're really focusing on getting young people in trucking careers and getting them trained while they're in high school.
All right. It's so important on that. And last but certainly not least, Miss Amandeep, talk to us a little bit. Give us that introduction.
Hey everyone, my name's Amandeep Bisla. I am a health and safety consultant. My background, I am a third generation trucker, heavy equipment operator by trade, a huge advocate for tradeswomen and specifically women in trucking.
All right. And you know what, we're talking here, Ellen, you brought it up to begin with. 15% of your membership of women in trucking are made up of men. Women involved in trucking, I think we're up to 7% of drivers, I believe, are women in our industry. Talk a little bit about that, about man, it's such a male-dominated, or definitely a male-dominated field. What can we do to get more women involved in this industry?
Well, the number you're using is the Department of Labor, which includes sales drivers. So we did our own study, and it's just under 14%. It's about 13.7% female drivers for over-the-road drivers. But there's so many things that we need to do to get more women in the industry. But the number one thing is to let women know that they can do this job. So many women look at the trucking industry and think, well, that's not for me because it's for men. And so we have to convince them that not only are they capable, but they're valued. And in fact, female drivers are safer drivers. Often they're better with the equipment, better with customers, better with paperwork, and easier to train. Often, I say often, not always. So women actually are very valued by the carriers. And that has changed over the 15 years since women in trucking existed, because in the past, they just said, well, we just want the best person. But now they're saying, wow, we see what women bring to the industry, so help us attract and retain more women as drivers.
Yeah, and we see more and more value also being placed, and you brought that up, on that safety side of our industry. When we're talking tort reform, or lack of it, I should say, all of the lawsuits that we see out there, let me tell you, there's not much more. Let me take that back. There's nothing more important in our industry than safety, especially driving the trucks. Amandeep, talk to me, third generation. When it comes to you, what do you think? I mean, what can we do from your eyes to get more women involved in our industry?
Thank you. I think it comes down to having like a good safety culture and a good organizational culture altogether. If we project that and we put that out there, that it's a safe place to come, and I'm talking about bullying, harassment, discrimination, even physical injuries as well. If you can try and make your organization as safe as possible and instill those beliefs and values, empower women, have training set up for them, have mentorship coaching programs, whatever it is to make them a better and safer individual and worker, absolutely. Putting that out there, and it goes from the top down. So having that from a leadership management level, and then having it come right down to the worker as well.
Yeah, and there's no doubt about it. And Lindsay, for you on this is, we can't wait until we're 35 or 40. At some point, we've got to find a way to bring the younger folks into our industry. What are ways that you're doing right now to try to tackle that struggle, right? So it's not third or fourth choice later on down the road of a career. It's career choice number one.
That is such a great point. And we have found that Other industries have really focused on career technical education in middle school and high schools for so many years. So now is the time for the trucking industry to do this as a unified whole. And so we want to create these programs for young people to be able to get trained in our profession, whether it's diesel technician, CDL truck driver, supply chain manager, give them opportunities to get trained as a junior and senior in high school in our industry and start pulling from those ages as opposed to waiting. The average age of a new entrant is 39. And so if we can find people who are passionate about our industry, instead of going into, say, HVAC or welding, let's get them in our industry and at least get them exposed so that if it is something that they'd want to do with their career, then it's going to be their first choice and not their third choice.
Yeah, and love that and couldn't agree more with you than what you're saying on that. And Ellen, from your side, to get the women, and it's really anybody, but let's talk about the women involved in our industry. We're not just talking truck drivers, we're talking brokers, we're talking mechanics. What are ways that the ladies out there, the women out there, can go out and educate themselves on how to number one, maybe find this career, but when to know how to enter into this industry? How about that?
Well, a couple things. We have a new portal on our website that if you click on driver, it's basically what questions should you ask about what school to choose, what carrier, what are the different types of loads, how do I stay healthy on the road, how do I stay in touch with my family. So for a driver, we have a driver portal. But we also have what we call the Engage platform, which is for members. They can log in and they can connect with other people in their job. So if they're a technician, then they can connect with other technicians, or maybe they own a logistics company or a 3PL, or maybe they own a truck dealership, or, yesterday I was talking to women who haul concrete, so they can connect with other people and learn from them. And I have to say that I would say the number one thing is to come to our conference, which is next week. And I got to give a shout out to Lindsay. Lindsay is one of our 4 finalists for the Influential Woman in Trucking Award. And so the winner will be announced at our event, and Lindsay will be on a panel sharing her wisdom as well. So, and we're expecting 1,600 people. My goal was 1,500 registered attendees, and we blew through that. So
wow.
It's going to be a great event. Yeah. And Bryce will be there. So I know BCB will have a booth there, and we look forward to catching up with you.
Yes, and for certain. And I'm going to go out there and say that, hey, Lindsay, congrats, can't wait. We're rooting for you out there. I want you to know that. And it's, these conferences that we do, the conferences that you're doing out there, it's so important that we learn what each other does. It's making each other part of something greater. And what you do at Women in Trucking, it's phenomenal because it's putting like-minded people together to find solutions. Right, and we've got to learn as an industry to find solutions to a problem when we're out there, no matter what we're doing on that. So kudos to you for what y'all are doing out there. Amandeep, for you, Women in Trucking, I just want to say that they're going to bring us together to talk and to meet one another. When you attend items like this, or when you go out and talk to people, what are ways that you can get those other people included into your passion, into what you're doing in the industry?
Great question. I think that speaking to our experiences and just sharing storytelling and story sharing are some powerful tools. Getting out to these conferences, workshops, seminars, and actually interacting with other women in trucking as well, getting the youth. So starting off really young, even in high schools as well. There are programs up in various high schools in Canada as well, where they actually give exposure, like Lindsay was talking to earlier, and having people actually come out and share their experiences as well. Another huge thing is having allies. So as much as we have women in trucking, we need to be supported by our male counterparts. It is a heavily male dominated industry, and with a lot of support, you can just be your better self as well.
Yeah, and and so let's just talk a little bit about some of this right here, because and Ellen, I'm going to go back to you, because when I talk to women out there, and I have 3 daughters, and I've talked to them about it. I know that they know it, but their friends, they don't believe that logistics or transportation even really exists to them. We've got to find a way, and I think even through what you do at Women in Trucking, to make them realize that there's money to be made in this industry too. We're not just talking about a stopgap. We're talking there's real money at real opportunity, and no better opportunity than what for a woman in this industry to really show themselves, because the metrics show you that how good you are. It's a metrics-driven industry.
Well, first of all, Amandeep said tell stories, and we tell stories. We have a member of the month. We have a driver of the year. We tell stories. We also have an image team that gives ride-alongs to the media and our legislators and elected officials, and they share their stories. But as Lindsay knows, we wanted to reach the next generation, and so we created a Girl Scout transportation patch, a supply chain patch. And it talks about how there's an activity book that goes with it. And it talks about how the grain goes from the field to the bakery in a truck, bakery to packaging in a truck, and so on. And that's to teach young girls about the supply chain industry and how it actually impacts them personally. And then, of course, as you know, we have our truck driver doll that we want children to play with and think, wow, maybe I could be a truck driver someday. So it's really about reaching other people where they are and saying, there are great jobs here, you can do them, but they have to see somebody who looks like them doing the job. And so that's where the doll, the patch, the stories, and the ride-alongs come in.
Yeah, Lindsay, when you're talking to that younger group out there, I mean, there's got to be some. I mean, what are the major doubts that say the women have? You know, whether it's being a truck driver or going into our industry, what are some commonality of subjects that they bring up that you have to maybe fight against or encourage them more to say, hey, no, that's not how it is?
That's a great question. We were at the Future Farmers of America, the FFA, their national convention last week in Indianapolis. We had a booth, and there's over 65,000 students at this convention. We had a driver simulator. From the time the doors opened till they closed, we had a crowd around the driver simulator watching their friends drive, wanting to try driving, and over half of the people doing it, the students doing it, were females. And we talked to them about it. And I had a few girls say, I've thought about it, but I feel like it could be unsafe. So they were a little nervous about that. So we kind of talked to them about women in trucking and how they are doing a lot of things to help make it more safe out there and to provide them resources so that they will be prepared and feel safe. And then we also had women that were just a little scared, or I wouldn't even say, they're 16-year-old kids. They're scared to get behind the wheel. So it's a matter of getting these females over the hump so they know that they can do it. Once they do it and are confident up on the road and behind the wheel, it changes their life because they're finding something they like and they're good at, because women are safer drivers on the road. And so we need more women to feel confident and to get over that hurdle of getting out there.
Ellen, when I spoke with Dave Heller last week or the week before, and a main subject we continue to talk about is truck parking, is safety at the truck stops. Have we done enough as an industry, as a country, to make these places safe for any driver?
Well, we haven't done enough, but we've done some. We work with the truck stops on safety and security, and so we talk to them about lighting and fencing and things like that. But also we work with the truck cab manufacturers, and we've had 2 manufacturers put in panic buttons in the cab of the truck. And we don't feel they've gone far enough. We want them to put an alarm system in the truck so that when someone is sleeping, maybe at a truck stop or a customer, that if somebody tries to break in, whether you're in the truck or not, an alarm will go off. And if you don't disengage the alarm, then the police will be called, just like I have in my home. So there's more that we can be doing. And we also need to have more safe parking areas. And we totally support that as well. There's new legislation here in the United States about having safe parking. So we really do need to make sure that it's a safe environment for everyone, but especially for female drivers, because women will leave the industry if they don't feel safe. And Amandeep referenced that about safety, but it's personal safety. So it's, if the company doesn't look out for the driver's safety and provide safe parking, safe equipment, and send them to safe areas. And one other thing, the company needs to let the driver make the decision on whether they feel that operating the truck is safe. So if there's an area of protest or maybe snow or something that the driver says, well, I'm uncomfortable driving in these conditions, what is the carrier's response? Do they say, yep, you're the captain of your ship, or they say, hey, it's trucking, you need to keep going? So those things really comprise the safety part of the transportation industry, and we do need to do better.
Yes, we do. Amandeep, I don't know if you heard that or not, but I'm gonna say from a trucking perspective, the last thing we should say, and I'm gonna turn my trucking company hat on right now. The last thing we should ever tell any driver is, if you feel safe, go. Don't let it be their choice only. Sometimes you as a company, you've got the technology. We have the technology to make that decision for them that says the roads aren't safe for anybody. I will tell you when we feel the roads are, then you can let me know if you feel okay to run, because we've got to help take that pressure off a driver, that peer pressure that can happen when they get on the roadway. We want them to say, my trucking company said I'm not getting on the road, and that's why I'm not driving. Amandeep, what do you see on the safety side from companies up there? I mean, do they have that mentality, that says, that can respect that decision from the driver to not drive?
Yes, absolutely. So just a brief background or history on myself. So I grew up in a trucking family. I've been in dump trucks since diapers, and I've been around that safety culture and that just having those trucking families as well. And so I remember when I was younger, my dad used to always tell his drivers, hey, you know what? You guys need to slow down. You guys need to make sure that you're safe. If the road conditions aren't up to snuff or up to par, please either park your truck or wait, take another route, whatever it is, but safety should be paramount and it's number one top priority. And so I grew up around that, and I saw a lot of other trucking companies doing the same thing. Are we there? Looking at the present, not. There's so much more that we could be doing from a safety standpoint as well. We need to, again, empower your workforce as a trucking company. Make sure that you're not just talking the talk, that you're walking the walk as well. It's one thing to have policies and safety procedures and practices in place. It's another to actually enforce that and actually get out there and show people, show your workforce, show the public that, hey, you know what, you're engaged in your workers, that they are your number one priority, your number one asset, and that you're helping them prevent any sort of incidents, injuries, and being safe. So whatever that looks like, if you're putting in engineer controls, we were talking to having lighting and cameras and fences, looking at engineer controls, having the proper PPE, making sure that you've put every control that you possibly can to ensure that that risk and that those hazards are minimized so that our drivers are out there and they're working safely.
All right. I want to thank each and everyone. Hey, thank you for taking time to join BCB Live. It's important that we get this opportunity, and I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity, because it's a lot of value you bring to not only us but to other folks, to hear your story, to hear what you're doing, and to hear about our industry and what we are doing to make a challenge, to make a difference, I should say. I want to remind everybody out there, hey, go see Ellen next week. Women in Trucking, it's here. We're voting for Lindsay. If you're BCB Live, you got the stamp of approval from BCB Live. Lindsay, I want to thank you all for what you do. God bless you all. Make it happen. Make a difference today in everything you do. And thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more BCB Live, the safest station in the nation, in 1 minute. You're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. BCB Live covers freight. Here we are now at 21% of record freight being rejected. News down in Texas. We're going to talk a little bit about this. We had another $1.5 million seizure. If ever there's a time to do a pre or post trip, it's if you're doing something wrong. Weather, traffic.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to some traffic and weather with Buckle Up Bob. You can kind of see where the visibility can be compromised a little bit. Again, right where that rain is.
And most importantly, safety. One of the things that we must do
is make sure that safety is the number one thing that we focus on.
Going into an intersection yellow is not the way. That's to clear an intersection, not to enter an intersection.
Tune in weekdays from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can watch BCB Live through LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe today and follow BCB Live. Host of BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. If you don't already know about Freight and Review, it's a segment I cover once a week where I analyze freight rejections, freight tenders, driver productivity, and much, much more. You can watch Freight and Review on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe today and follow BCB Live. Hey, welcome to BCB. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. And we're going to do it twice this week. We're going to talk a little bit about our industry because it is changing. And I say it's changing quick. We continue to see the truck pricing go down to, and it's just that 3-year-old truck pricing out at $112,000. That price has came down from $145,000 at the beginning of the year. Crazy to see these numbers, and it's real though, right? I mean, it's so real right now. But here's the odd part. Even though if you have that truck and you have a 3-year-old truck, you bought it at the right price, if you can get rid of that sucker at $105,000, $112,000, I'm going to say do it if you don't have the freight for it, because every other year, that truck's valued at about $67,000. You are still sitting on an asset that's actually worth something right now. Just if you bought last year, you're like, Sir Rick, but I paid record amounts of money for it. I'm like, yeah, you know what? You got problems. You're in trouble. There's not a lot we can do. Run smarter is what we're going to have to really focus on. Here's that pricing though. Okay, and I'm going to go back to 6 months ago. We started it 6 months ago, and pricing was already on its way down, coming after about mid-February. It went down to $2.10, $2, and today we're closer to that $170 mark. That's line haul, that's spot market pricing. And when you see spot market pricing continue to go down that low, what it's really trying to scream and tell us is that, hey, listen, that contract rates that we're seeing right now, it's very high. When you see spot market rates go down that low, that means those carriers, those brokers are continuing to take all that freight. Look at this right here though. We're going to go the last 3 months on contracted rates. Contracted rates, even 3 months ago, you were talking that $270, $275 a mile plus fuel surcharge. Today, at around $267, $265. That price continues to go down. A lot of renegotiations happening right now from those shippers, those customers, to those carriers saying, hey, listen, we're going to have to negotiate down. We went way up last year. You're going to have to work with me on this. Expect 3 to 5% decrease in that line haul rate. But I want you to know this. If we go back 5 years ago, and I know the price of assets has gone up. I know that we used to pay $30,000 for a dry van, and today it's $53,000. I get that a reefer used to cost $60,000, and now it's $110,000, $105,000. I get all of that. But here's something else to look at. If we look at the pricing, most years, contracted rates are a lot closer to that $2 a mile. Today, even though we don't like the rates, right, because they're not $3 a mile anymore, you see it right there, at the very beginning of this year, those contracted rates last year, record high, it's still $2.67 a mile. I know there's money that you have to spend now on payroll, on fuel. Hold on a second, because if you're getting this, you're also getting a fuel surcharge, so you are protected on that side. But when you see rates that high, $2.67, right? We saw the brokerage freight rates at $1.75, $1.76, $1.70, whatever. $2.67, $1.70, almost $1 difference. Call it 90-cent difference between contract and spot rate. And when you see a big difference like that, here's what happens. Nobody rejects any freight at all. I'm going to show you the 5-year rejection rate right now. This is going back to 2018, 2019. We saw rejections way up here high. That was 2018. The scare of the electronic log came in and everybody shipped out, everybody rejected, nobody knew what was going to happen. But it kind of normalized right here. Today, 4.62% of the volume is getting rejected. 4.62%. We haven't seen it that low since this period right here. COVID year, the worst part of COVID, when we finally shut down and we're at like 1% of freight being rejected. Last year, we lived in that market, right? Look at it. 25, 24%, 26% of record volume being rejected. Today, 4.62, and I'm going to tell you, 4.62 of almost 11,000 loads being rejected. Before, if we go back to the COVID, right up here we go. It was 16,000 loads. There we go, right here, 13,000 loads a year. Let's go back a year. Let's go back right here. Look at that. 15,800, 16,000 loads being shipped out every day. Today, down here, a lot closer to 11,000 loads a day being shipped out. Now, I will say, this has got me concerned because at 12,000 loads, which is what we've been kind of hanging out, 11.7, you can see we're still significantly higher than what we've been. Right now at 10,900 or 10,800 loads, we're kind of right there with the other years. The freight has came back down a little bit. I mean, and this is it unbelievable? I'm going to go, I feel like this can't be right. Look at the volume since the end of the month. Once again, we're at 11,700 loads, almost 11,800. It's called 11,700 loads. Today at 10,819, 900 shipments short from where we were a day. 8.5% decrease in freight volume in a week. That's significant. What happens next week, right? That's my thing is what happens next? What happens the rest of this period right here? We're in peak season, for Christ's sake. Freight's supposed to be going up. When do we decide to let that inventory go that we know is so stinking high right now? Let's see if we can pull this up real quick. This is the LMI, which measures the inventory levels, and we're not going to be, there we go. Inventory levels are very high still at 71.9. We go back and look at the 5 years. Look, we're as high as we've ever been except for the end of last year. Inventory's high. When are we going to release that inventory? That tells me somehow, some way, I feel maybe some phenomenal prices or better prices coming out for this Christmas rush that's going to happen at some point to get people to buy. who wants to do this? So here's my thing. Who's going to be the first, second, third? Who's going to release that inventory that they paid record amounts of volume, record amounts of dollars for? I don't have that answer. Inventory still there, hasn't been released. We're coming back. We have Dale Kellen going over safety. We're going over videos, all right here on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. You're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. BCB Live covers freight.
Here we are now at 21% of record freight being rejected.
News down in Texas. We're going to talk a little bit about this. We had another $1.5 million seizure. If ever there's a time to do a pre or post trip, it's if you're doing something wrong.
Weather, traffic. Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to some traffic and weather with Buckle Up Bob. You can kind of see where the visibility can be compromised a little bit. Again, right where that rain is.
And most importantly, safety.
One of the things that we must do is make sure that safety is the number one thing that we focus on.
Going into an intersection yellow is not the way. That's to clear an intersection, not to enter an intersection.
Tune in weekdays from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can watch BCB Live through LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe today and follow BCB Live. All right, and welcome back to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Dale, when I think about trucking and safety, and we talk about it so much on this thing, everything seems to be about the truck, right? I mean, about the PM, about get out and look. I mean, but safety goes a little deeper than that.
That it does. We've shifted gears this week, albeit Rick, and we're going to talk about driver safety a little bit. And we've been talking about slips and falls. I mean, because it's a very big thing. And they hurt, you know, and we talked about, you know, just got to slow down a little bit, got to be aware of your surroundings, you know, avoid distractions. Where have we heard that before? Whether you're driving a truck or walking across the lot, down the hall, whatever, avoid distractions. Put away those cell phones, clipboards, and food. I mean, because you can't do two things at once successfully, and you got to be aware of those surroundings. You know, here's a fact. Average cost of a slip and fall injury is between $36,000 and $47,000 per incident. Wow. So it's expensive. I mean, and plus that doesn't even take in the time you lose because you're out of your truck because you hurt your back or maybe you broke your arm or whatever else. So, you know, let's take that seriously, that three-point entrance and get out of the truck, you know. Make sure you're facing the cab of your truck when you crawl in and crawl out. Don't get in that hurry.
Yeah, there's some ways, especially when we think about, and we're on that season, right? It's going to start getting a little cool out. Eventually, we're going to see that snow, we're going to see that ice. I know we're seeing it in parts of the country. There are things you can do. Cleats. Talk to us about the cleats.
Cleats are, you know, they make a whole bunch of different styles of cleats. Some are rubber, some are spring mounted and stuff like that. They're great for if you have the icy and slick parking lots or whatever. Don't wear them driving your truck. Don't wear them driving.
There you go.
They get caught on the pedals and every place else, guys. And so, I mean, but there are some great stuff to carry along with that. So if you do have to go, you know, you're parked up because it's icy or it's snowing, you have to get out of your truck and go to the truck stop, that you can slip those on real easy. Make a world of difference. It's like putting chains on your feet, man.
Amen on that. Nothing wrong with that. Hey, we got any videos today?
I believe we do.
Oh, I love the videos. Here we go. Any stop signs? Here we go.
No, This one is, hey, we're rolling just a little too close. We have to recognize this. Get out of their space. Create our own space. And one of the things I noticed about this one is we're too close. We're waiting for that truck to go past. And then we make that quick lane change. And we're in the same situation. We're still too close.
Situation. If something happens to that truck, that 10 Select, that truck and trailer on the right-hand side that we're getting behind right now, if they have to stop, we're in trouble once again, right?
Yep. I mean, just from one situation to another. Hey, let that space clear out a little bit. Make sure when you change that lane, you got that clearance of the truck in front of you. Yep, too close. Too close. You just got to recognize this, get it back out of it, because we're not doing anybody any favors. We're not making them go any faster. And I've been there, Rick. We've all been there where, whatever lane I choose, I'm in the wrong lane. But just got to create that space and then worry about changing lanes if that's what it takes, or just backing off a little bit.
Yeah, and at 65 miles an hour, maybe that speed should be 63.
Yeah.
63 and a half, and that gives you the distance you want. And here's the thing, and we hear it all the time. I mean, we'll hear it today if we open up the lines here. They're going to say, well, if I give that space, somebody's going to take it. Two things. Number one, so what? I mean, give it to them. Number two is I don't think anybody else from this picture I see wants to go 63 to 64 miles an hour. So they're not going to take your space right now because it's going to slow them down. They want to be in that right lane and that left lane, passing everybody on. Give some patience, open that up, open up your mind, and just back it off a little bit.
Yep, it's that old thing. If you're going 1 or 2 miles slower than everybody else, you're never gaining on them. And people, even if they do cut you off, Rick, what happens? They're pulling away from you.
Pulling away.
So, all good stuff.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Stale green light. Stale green light. You got to wear. The drivers probably focus on, hey, that truck's turning in front of me and lost focus, but it's a stale green light. We should be stopping. Whether it's a hard brake or not to get stopped, I'll take that hard brake instead of going through that intersection, because intersections are dangerous.
Let me tell you, the roads look a little wet out there on top of it. And a stale green light, you brought it up. Let me talk about it a little bit. Is when you expect that light to change. And we know when we're out there, when we know that light's going to change. And we want to anticipate that. And that doesn't mean go faster.
No.
That means get ready to stop. That means perhaps even slow down, because nothing good happens, especially when there's an accident involved in an intersection, Dale.
Yeah, and when we look at the metrics on this, we can see the driver, was preparing a little bit because he lifted off the accelerator, but just never tapped the brake. As soon as that truck starts turning in front, he's got to think, man, I need to slow down, get stopped just in case. You never know what's going to happen when those vehicles turn in front of you. And we were talking about intersections being dangerous. I love the driver for sending this one in.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Half second or less, this ends up a whole lot different. And it's just the impatience of the four-wheeler thinking, and that's a red light, folks. That's a red light.
It's not a four-way stop.
No.
Does he think it's a four? It's almost like he thinks it's a four-way stop. I'm not sure he comes to a complete stop anyway at the red light.
Doesn't either.
Look, he never does.
Never
he
does.
Never comes to a stop.
He's in a lane going forward where there is no lane. That's just complete. I'm more important than everybody else out here, and I'm going to go when I feel like going.
Wow, those are just apps, and that's why we have to treat these intersections, especially on a stale green light, especially even when the lights turn green and we're there. Watch your timing on that, because a lot of people get to these things and for some reason, I don't know what it is, it's like they panic at a stop sign, at a stoplight.
Yeah, and sometimes, and I'm not making any excuses, they'll look at the green light and go, oh, that's mine. But you know what that means? They're not paying attention in the first place. They don't have their head on driving. They don't have their head on being safe. You got to know what light applies to you, because that green light that we saw there, that was the right turn light arrow.
Oh, goodness gracious.
It wasn't go forward.
It wasn't to go forward, no doubt about it. Hey, we want to thank you for watching BCB Live. We're the safest station in the nation, and we're here to help you get a little bit, we want you to get better, but we want to share the awareness with you, Dale, because it is so important that we all learn from these videos. We all learn from things that you have to say.
Yeah, and that's so true. And I love talking to drivers and listening to them, because hopefully when they watch and listen, when they get in that situation they've never been in before, something in the back of the mind goes, oh, I heard that, I saw that, you know, and
Green.
something clicks in and it makes it a little bit better, especially on those stale green lights and intersections.
Yeah, we want to protect life. We want to get you back home. We want your family to make it back home to you. That's that passion behind what we do here on BCB Live. We'll see you we won't see you tomorrow. We will see you Monday, though, bright and early at noon. Bright and early at noon for
Bright and
some,
early
right?
at noon. There you
never
go.
know. It's a weekend. A lot of crazy things happen on weekends. We'll see you Monday. God bless. Have a great weekend.
Peace out.